Christina, can you hear me okay? Oh, Christy,
I can, Alfred. Thank you both for joining early.
thank you. I get nervous with tech stuff, so glad to make sure we cross our T's, dot our I's.
I agree with you. Thank you. Yeah, just feel free to, be off camera, have your coffee until I kick us off. Good morning, Lucy. Thank you for joining early. Do you want to test your audio and video? I can see you, but you're muted. So,
Hear me now?
yeah, I had to send
Okay.
a request for you to unmute yourself, but you are a panelist, so you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I thought I've got, I'm on my phone, so I was also had a button on the WebEx to unmute, so I'll make sure I do that.
Got it. Thank you. But you look and sound great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you sound excellent.
Oh, good.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Good morning, Donna. Yes, I can. Thank you for joining early.
All right, IT folks checking in. We're like, I think we're good.
Well, I don't have IT support, so if things go awry.
But we'll go down with you if you're having problems. So.
Exactly.
Morning, Christina.
Good morning, Steve.
My camera.
Yeah, you're on camera. I lost your audio for a second.
Oh, do you hear me now?
Yes, you sound
Okay.
good. Thank you. Good morning, Commissioner Douglas. Thank you for joining early. We're just doing some audio video testing with the panelists.
Excellent. I'm going to get on mute now, but good to see everybody.
Perfect.
Good morning.
Hi, Jason. Good morning. Can we test your video and audio?
I think all should be good, but
Yes.
great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great, folks, it is 9 a.m. And I think we can get started with our workshop today. As a reminder, this workshop is being recorded. My name's Christina Boyagi, and I'm the Energy Division Lead on this proceeding. I'd like to first welcome assigned Administrative Law Judge Brian Stevens to kick us off.
Great, thank you. Good morning. My name is Brian Stevens, and I'm the assigned administrative law judge to the quasi-legislative investigation 23-03008. That is the order instituting investigation on the Commission's own motion into natural gas prices during winter 2022 to 2023 and resulting impacts to energy markets. I want to first thank Christina and the team in Energy Division for managing the execution of the workshop today. I want to thank Commissioner Douglas and her team for their leadership in this proceeding. And I also want to thank the parties for their robust participation in the investigation thus far, as well as the participants at the workshop today. The purpose of the workshop is to discuss actions and preparations that the gas utilities and independent storage providers are taking to identify and mitigate the potential impacts should there be price volatility during winter 2023 to 2024, as well as communication protocols to alert customers of potential bill impacts. My understanding is that there will be a staff report served to parties to this investigation, and we will use that as a tool to build the record to help inform Commission decision-making. So with that, I cannot underscore enough how critical the work has been thus far, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion today. At this time, I will turn it over to Commissioner Douglas.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Judge Stevens. I appreciate your work and your focus on this really important issue, as well as the support and strong engagement of the staff team that has been working on this proceeding and supporting us in pulling this workshop together. I'd also like to thank all of the participants and attendees joining us today. This workshop is an important opportunity for the Commission to look ahead to the upcoming winter season and the actions and preparations that the utilities and others are taking or have already taken to prepare for the upcoming winter, even as we continue the work to better understand the factors behind last winter's gas price spikes and resulting impacts to energy markets. From this workshop, we will seek greater awareness about what parties are doing to avoid or minimize any kind of recurrence of the gas price spikes or minimize the risk of such recurrence. And we very much look forward to the presentations and the discussion. And with the situational awareness established here today, as we look forward to the coming winter, we hope to be able to identify additional actions or actions that can be taken or are being taken to address this issue, including improving gas utilities communications with their customers. So again, many thanks to the Energy Division staff and to Judge Stevens for pulling together this workshop today. And I very much look forward to hearing the presentations. And with that, back to you, Judge Stevens.
Great, thank you. And I'll turn it back to Christina at this time.
Thank you, Commissioner Douglas and Judge Stevens. Next slide, please. So before we start with our first panel, I just wanted to briefly go over some workshop logistics for the day. The workshop agenda was distributed to the service list, and today's presentations will also be made available after the workshop is over. If you would like to dial into today's workshop, please use this toll-free number, as well as this access code and numeric password. There will be 2 panel discussions today, followed by a Q&A after each panel. To ask a question, please use the chat box on the right-hand side. And if your question is for a specific panelist, please indicate that in your question as well. When it is time for a Q&A, I will read your question aloud. If you prefer to ask your question verbally, you may do so by using the raise hand function located next to your name. It's a very tiny hand that you just click on. That'll alert me that you have a question, and then I will have you unmuted, at which point you can verbally ask your question. If you are using your phone for audio and have a question for a panelist, you must still use the chat to either type your question or at least identify your phone number so that you can then be unmuted. When we are done with both panel discussions and Q&As, we will have an opportunity for everyone at this workshop to provide comments. That includes commissioners in attendance, staff, panelists, and attendees. To make a comment, please follow the instructions that were provided here for the Q&A as well. And lastly, this workshop is again being recorded. With that, next slide, please. I think we can go ahead and get started with our first panel discussion, which will focus on current market conditions, winter outlook, and customer communications. Our first set of panelists represent SoCalGas and SDG&E. I'd like to welcome Ray Sasaki, Jennifer Walker, and Donna Golan.
All right, just quick mic check. Everyone can hear?
Yes, you sound great.
All right, excellent. So hello, my name is Ray Sasaki, and I'm the Director of Gas Acquisition for SoCalGas. So first I want to say that we appreciate the opportunity to discuss the outlook for this winter. A couple of other points before I start. Gas acquisition procures for SoCalGas's and SDG&E's core gas customers. Procurement for SDG&E's electric portfolio is done through a different function. And the information being presented is from publicly available materials. Specific information like pricing, that may come from various vendors in which I've received permission to share at this workshop. Next slide, please. So I'm going to start with the outlook and then review market conditions that support the outlook. So the outlook for the West isn't that straightforward. The fundamentals point to supply demand being more balanced this winter relative to last winter. And from this, the pricing regime most likely will be less extreme than what we experienced last winter. However, when you look at the forward prices for the upcoming winter, they are elevated. There are uncertainties, which I'll touch on when I review the market conditions, that may justify elevated prices. So the takeaway may be from this that elevated, but less extreme. So the chart is showing forward prices for the upcoming winter at SoCal Citygate. So it shows how current forward prices are elevated compared to last year and compared to the 5-year average. So I'm only showing SoCal Citygate. So another takeaway might be that the same message can be seen with various pricing points throughout the West. Next slide, please. So market conditions for the West are growing more complex with respect to how the global markets influence the national markets and how the national markets influence the Western markets. I'll just touch on some of the highlights. So global markets. LNG prices are much lower than they were last year. And at current pricing levels, the influence on the national markets from the global markets are much less than what we experienced at this time last year. And then the same is true for the national markets with respect to its influence on the Western region. Henry Hub prices are materially lower than what they were at this time last year. There's more production, there's higher storage levels. There is one thing that I want to point out about demand, and that's regarding higher demand from power generation. And I'm bringing this up because this trait is also spilling over into the Western region. With regard to the West, I mean, currently there's much more supply availability in the West compared to last year. So most of the pipeline outages have been resolved, and that's a huge deal, especially with the return of El Paso Line 2000. There's higher storage levels in the West, and this is going to be discussed later in more detail later in the workshop. On the flip side, uncertainties related to demand, it is present. So this is an El Nino year. There's lower than normal temperatures that are typically associated in the West with El Nino, maybe except for the Pacific Northwest. And then there's higher demand for power generation. And I'm highlighting this because it's been exceeding market expectations for the past several months now. So how these and other uncertainties get assimilated into the market, it is difficult to quantify, but the main point is that these uncertainties are translating into elevated prices and elevated volatility throughout the Western region. So again, just putting this into context, the additional supply should support a less extreme pricing regime this winter relative to last year, even though prices are currently elevated in the forward markets. So again, elevated, less extreme. All of this is with currently available information, and it will change. That's all I have for my prepared remarks. I'll now turn it over to Jennifer Walker, who will present on our customer communication.
Thank you. So hello, I'm Jennifer Walker, Vice President of Customer Services at SoCal. I want to thank you for the opportunity to participate in this workshop to discuss SoCal Gas's communications to support and prepare customers for this winter. Our customers are top of mind, and we continue to be focused on developing and delivering communications to help our customers have the information they need when they need it to make decisions.
Jennifer, I just want to note that your audio is kind of coming in and out.
Oh, no. Okay. Can you let me know if it's continuing to do that?
You sound better now.
Okay. All right, let me keep going and then stop me if there's a problem. So, so we don't want our customers to be surprised about high bills or to experience the challenges last winter. We want our customers to feel valued in their journey.
Jennifer, it's still not great. Do you want to let Donna?
Go to Dawn. Go to Donna, and then I'm going to see if I can do something.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and Olivia advance the slides. Donna, just let us know at what point you're gonna speak.
Sounds good. I'm waiting for the slides to show up.
I think we're good here.
Yeah, sounds good. We can go to the next slide, the first slide. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Donna Golan, and I'm the Vice President of Customer Services at San Diego Gas and Electric. Thank you for inviting SDG&E to participate in this workshop to discuss our winter outreach and communications to support and prepare our customers. With energy costs being an important part of household budgets, we recognize it is important to make sure customers are informed about gas pricing and market conditions, and even more importantly, that they're prepared with resources to manage their bill. No one wants to be surprised by their utility bill, and therefore we err on the side of over-communicating. Building on last year's robust customer education campaign, this winter SDG&E will again execute kind of a broad, multifaceted campaign. The goal is to help customers plan, prepare for winter bills, and offer assistance. One valuable lesson from last year was the importance of adaptability. During the previous winter, we demonstrated our agility by swiftly adjusting our communication strategies in response to gas price spikes. We're fully prepared to replicate this flexibility this coming winter. Should the need arise, we will pivot quickly to deploy targeted communications informed by real-time data, including weather conditions. To enhance our responsiveness, we're introducing additional communication channels that facilitate kind of quick update or message replacements. These channels include digital bus shelter advertisements, streaming audio promotions, and the potential inclusion of paid social influencer content. And we're also utilizing our texting channel to expand not only our reach, but our messaging strategy to proactively engage customers ahead of winter bills and inform them of any significant price changes or increases should that occur. To boost engagement, particularly with the text channel, our winter campaign has a call to action to encourage customers to subscribe to text alert and tailor their notification preferences. Furthermore, our campaign will leverage a variety of tactics, including direct emails to customers, media outreach, organic and paid social media posts, digital ads, multilingual flyers, banner alerts both on our sdgne.com and our mobile app, as well as detailed web content. If you can please go to the second slide. Thank you. While we are constantly looking to improve our customer communications, our goal this year remains the same: to engage customers and provide tools, resources, and assistance. Monthly winter emails are planned for later this month, all the way through February, and we will be tailored to support different customer segments. Also, our dedicated winter page actually launched earlier this week. We will continue to engage and leverage our more than 200 community-based organizations to extend the reach of our communications through their social channels and their newsletters. Our partners often amplify our messages, and we will again provide them with our social media winter communications kits. SDG&E also leverages direct engagement opportunities to communicate with and support our vulnerable customers. For example, last winter in 2022, SDG&E conducted a direct call campaign, and we also partnered with the San Diego Food Bank to distribute warming items. We would explore similar opportunities to support vulnerable customers again this year if circumstances warrant. And then with regards to our major business customers, in addition to regular touch points that we have with their respective account executives, SDG&E also holds engagement forums, both in the spring and in the fall, during which our subject matter experts provide an overview on both gas and electric rates. Our fall customer engagement forum is actually taking place later today, and we will be sharing our winter pricing outlook with them as well. And additionally, our regional public affairs team proactively communicates with cities and counties and elected officials so they can in turn update their constituents. In closing, we're once again deploying a robust winter campaign to help customers manage their energy bills, and our overarching intent is to remain ready and nimble. That concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna. Let's try to go back to Jennifer to see if your audio is working.
Christina, if you don't mind, I'm going to stay off video just in case. I don't know what's happening. I'm trying a couple different things and it's doing some nutty stuff. So
that's actually fine because you sound a lot better.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Apologies for the video. Okay, so I will start off where I was at. Let's see. So we want our customers to feel valued in their journey with SoCalGas, and to do that, we have to have a strong learning mindset where we are continuously exploring how. Last winter, we leveraged existing direct communication, engaged media outlets, and conducted numerous outreach efforts through our community organizations and local. This coming winter, we will again be using these channels assess and flex with existing winter.
Hey there, this is Brian Stevens. Yeah, Christina, I'm not getting anything at the moment. In terms of audio, it's cutting in and out significantly.
Yeah, Jennifer, your audio is still there are also dial-in instructions if you want to call in. And then you can go ahead with your presentation. I just sent that information over to you in the chat box if you want to call in. Folks, apologies for the technical delay. We are still ahead of time, so I'm going to give it a minute or so for Jennifer to get her audio.
All right. Let's see. 1 second. Okay,
You dialed in?
I'm on. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes. But there is an echo. If you dialed in, you should probably turn off your computer audio so that we don't hear the echo.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but there's still an echo. Let's just go ahead and move on to the to PG&E while you try to get your audio working in the back, and then we can always go back to your presentation. Apologies for that, folks. I am going to introduce our next speakers that are speaking on behalf of PG&E. Please welcome Pete Kozalka and Christy Wilkins.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you, Pete.
Great. Again, I'm Pete Kozalka. I lead PG&E's gas procurement function for bundled core customers. That's residential and small business. And similar to Ray, we have a separate team that manages gas procurement for electric generation. I appreciate the opportunity today to discuss the first two questions posed to the panel. What are current market conditions and the outlook for winter? And how do they compare to conditions last year? Next slide, please. So this is very similar to the graph Ray displayed. This is PG&E Citygate forward prices for the upcoming winter for each of the last 3 years. The green line is this current year, the blue line is last year, and the dashed gray line at the bottom is 2021. Now, prices at PG&E Citygate and the West Coast in 2021 and 2022 very closely tracked the Henry Hub futures contract. So the volatility you see, especially there last year, was nationwide up until October, and that's when things changed on the West Coast. So PG&E Citygate prices decoupled from Henry Hub in October of last year, and the reasons we believe are based on fundamentals, supply and demand, which we discussed in detail in our response to the assigned commissioner's ruling. Next slide, please. Storage inventories, particularly on the West Coast, are in much better shape than they were last year at this time. The graph on the left shows the PG&E service area storage inventories. That includes both PG&E company-owned storage and storage at the 4 independent storage providers. The red line is 2023 in both graphs. The blue line is last year. The gray shaded area is the 5-year range, and the dark gray line in the center is the 5-year average. So note that the current inventories on the PG&E service area are at the top of the 5-year range and dramatically higher than last year. And I'll talk about the reason for that in a minute on the next slide. Nationally, storage inventories are also in good shape. You see the red line is significantly higher than the blue line last year, though that the amount over last year has declined during the summer months with high electric generation loads, but does continue to be healthy and well above the 5-year average. Next slide, please. So these graphs display storage economics from a merchant's point of view. And so let me describe them briefly. And I'll mention that since I'm in the core procurement function, our primary objective in injecting gas into storage is for winter reliability, though we do pay attention to economics as we fill our storage. And for this winter, we're well above 90% currently and will be effectively full at the end of November. The graph shows the storage economics in a simplified version as the spread between the day-ahead cash price and the January futures price. So the dark line at the bottom of the dark line, is the day-ahead cash price at the PG&E Citygate. The top of the dark line is the Citygate price plus the variable cost of injection and interest costs. So it's basically the total cost to put gas into storage. The blue line at the top is the PG&E Citygate forward price in January, and the spread between the two is the economic incentive to inject gas into storage. There's also some small red areas on the left graph. It's very difficult to see, which actually indicates negative economics and actually incentive to withdraw gas from storage. So note the huge difference between the two graphs. Last year, there was some incentive to inject into storage. It kind of came and went as we went through the year, and there were significant withdrawals during the July and August with the warmer weather. This year, we see a very widespread $3 to $5 or $2 to $5 per MMBTU, which is strong incentive to inject, and that's the reason we see those high inventory levels in PG&E service area. Next graph, or next slide, please. Talking about weather, the outlook for this winter is certainly better than it was for last winter, but let me describe the two images that we're showing. So on the left side is data from the National Weather Service. This is temperatures last winter in peak winter, December, January, and February. The blue shaded area is below normal, the red area is above normal. And we all recall that up and down the West Coast, we had below normal temperatures during the peak winter months. The numbers on each state are the ranking of that, the temperatures that winter versus the 128-year history that the National Weather Service keeps. You'll note that California was the 31st coldest winter in 128 years, and that the western states all ranked in the 30th and 40th places. So it was consistently cold across the West. Now the outlook for the coming winter on the right is also for peak winter months, December, January, February, and shows pretty much normal in the southern half of the US and a little above normal in the northern half. This is a classic El Nino pattern. So normal means we will experience cold snaps as we do in a normal winter. But again, this is a forecast, and this, as my job is serving core load reliably, and this does not give me any comfort. So we don't plan based on weather forecasts. We plan based on our supply standards, but the outlook at least is different than it was last year. Next slide, please. Oops, go up one, please. One more. Oh, we might have lost a slide. So it should be a slide showing drought conditions. One more.
Can you go back one more, Olivia?
There it is. Oop, nope, go down. One more after that. Next slide, 22. Oh, we lost it. Okay, well, I'll just voice over. So what we were going to display is drought conditions last year and this year in September. Last year, of course, we had extreme drought in California and up and down the West Coast in the Northwest as well. And looking at this year, we're not having drought conditions in California. However, the drought in the Pacific Northwest continues. And we, do see a reduction in electric generation exports from the Northwest due to the drought. So that is impacting gas demand in the Northwest and in California. So that's something we need to keep an eye on this coming winter. So that concludes my presentation. I'd like to hand off to my colleague, Christy Wilkins, who will cover communications.
Thanks, Pete. Thank you for having me here today to talk about our communications efforts. I run the solutions marketing, brand, and customer communications teams. So we were asked to speak today about what methods of communication we would use if there were to be another natural gas price spike this year. We utilize many different channels to communicate with customers to ensure that messages are received early and often. I won't read off all the items on this slide, but I would like to expand a bit on earned media. This is a multi-layered category that enables us to quickly secure English and in-language messaging in various media channels, including TV, radio, print, and social media news outlets. I'll note that our in-language media reaches approximately 80 non-English media outlets in our service area with coverage in 12+ languages. Our communications team was very successful in pitching stories last winter and was able to execute live segments with our local media reps, sharing information about the drivers of the higher pricing and also providing customers with a variety of tools and programs to manage their usage and their bills, as well as financial assistance for income eligible customers. This coverage included both primary and secondary media markets, as well as in-language media outlets across our territory. We will definitely repeat this strategy if the need arises again this winter. You can see on the slide our article in our PG&E Currents that talked about the price increases. And this was one of the lessons that we learned from last year in terms of how we could most quickly disseminate information to our customers. We were using multiple channels to communicate. Sorry, I have a break popping up on my computer, but that could have led to inconsistent information being shared across channels because they would have needed to be upgraded or updated regularly. The Currents article allowed us to have a single source of truth where we were able to update information quickly and then direct all other channels, all other touches to customers back to that article. So it allowed us to be extremely nimble when we had information that was constantly changing and ensure that we had accurate and timely information delivered to our customers. Next slide, please. One area that we plan to optimize is our coordination with community-based organizations to support our most vulnerable customer populations. We are in the process of expanding our relationships to over 900 organizations that target hard-to-reach customers. We send CBOs a quarterly newsletter with information on energy and bill management programs and financial support programs. We also use a self-service digital toolkit which provides ease of access to resources and marketing collateral, so the latest materials are available to our CBOs and tribal liaisons. These materials include a combination of digital, print, and PDFs, and are all referring to PG&E's financial assistance and support programs, as well as external resources. It can be quickly updated with messaging regarding natural gas price spikes if needed. Additionally, we're having conversations now about bringing the mobile customer units that we use for PSPS events to the places where hard-to-reach customers gather. For example, we could bring a unit to a senior community center and meet with customers to discuss what is happening with natural gas prices and have customer service reps on hand to look up customers' accounts and help them sign up for programs to assist them. We are launching a new website in November. The new design enables greater visibility above the fold for critical messages such as higher gas prices. Every pge.com visitor, whether on a mobile device or computer, will see the top of the page, making it the perfect place for this kind of messaging. And finally, we have already started conversations with our bill forecast alert provider about adding a high natural gas price notification to those alerts, which are received via text, email, and voice. It's the perfect communication to use because over 2.2 million customers already participate in the program. And in addition to providing an alert, it also provides information to customers about available programs to support energy usage. You can see an example of the bill forecast alert on the screen, which shows customers that in this case, their bill is projected to be $442. The discussions we're having with our provider right now is that if there were to be a spike in natural gas prices, that alert would appear right under the bill projection. So it would be top of screen and have primary real estate for visibility. And that concludes my presentation for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy and Pete. I think Jennifer may have figured out her audio, so let's go back a few slides to see if we can give Jennifer a chance again.
Okay.
You wanna say a couple of things?
Yeah, well, no, can you hear me okay?
So far.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right. We'll go to the first slide. So move us along. Okay, so let me start by sharing some highlights from what we learned last winter. In April this year, we completed a qualitative research study that was conducted to assess our website and email communications. And this study was conducted by a company called SoCal Gas Customer Insights Panel, and they identified the following key findings. First, people found the information on our management useful. However, customers were still generally surprised by the price increase.
Jennifer, just to let you know, the audio is malfunctioning again.
Okay.
Sorry to intervene. This is Brian Stevens. Jennifer, did you try calling in and then muting your computer and turning off the microphone?
It didn't let me on. It didn't let me on. So yeah, so I couldn't really do that. For some reason, it wouldn't let you hear me.
Understood.
So yeah, I don't know what was going on. Okay, so can you hear me now? Is it working?
I'll just say what happens is you speak for about 5 to 10 seconds and then all audio is lost for about 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah, someone suggested trying to stay closer to the computer audio source.
Okay. All right, I'll do that. Okay, so second, customers have an interest in understanding better their payment options and also a desire for practical tips to save money on their bills, along with receiving more strategies for managing price increases. Lastly, customers also preferred receiving information via email in advance so that they could plan changes that they might need when the prices are high. Next slide. So based on our lessons learned, we have incorporated enhancements to our communication plans for this winter to increase winter preparedness communication. One of our goals is to engage our customers as early as possible. For example, the annual pilot Relight email awareness started the week of Labor Day, and we had a first day of fall social media post to kick off the cooler weather season with the promotion of our bill tracker alerts. So we are committed to conveying the severity of cost increases and providing practical tips for reducing usage and helping our customers seek out assistance programs if they are struggling to pay their bills. And we'll do this by providing energy saving tools and tips. For example, we plan to continue having Dan the Weatherman engaging social media videos to share tips for energy savings and preparation for winter months. Also promoting our customer assistance programs. We plan to have media campaigns, CARE, ESAP, and medical baseline. They'll be running along with energy efficiency rebates on appliances and ways to save communications. And lastly, expanding our billing support options, including the increased bill tracker alert promotions through emails and digital campaigns. Lastly, we are planning to have a new text notice starting in November, and this is going to run through the winter season. We're going to provide customers with an opportunity to opt in for a monthly text message if the monthly cost of natural gas reaches a level that could cause the bill increase of 20% or more for the average customer's bills for a given month. So to wrap up, SoCal Gas has had several lessons learned from this last winter that we have incorporated into our go forward winter strategy. And we will continue to seek out new and value-adding ways to engage with and support our customers during the winter season. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I apologize for all the audio. I'm done.
Thank you, Jennifer. You sounded a lot better towards the end, so appreciate that. Next, I would like to welcome representatives from Southwest Gas, Steve Williams and Sean Corbett.
Thanks, Christina. I would also want to thank Thank you all for the opportunity for us to present during this workshop today. Our presentation today will begin with me presenting some market fundamentals that occurred prior to and during last winter, as well as some market fundamentals for this upcoming winter. After me, Sean Corbet will present Southwest Gas's annual winter communications. Next, please. Now I want to briefly describe our service areas in California. For our Northern California service area encompasses North Lake Tahoe, South Lake Tahoe, and Truckee. And for our Southern California service area encompasses Barstow, Big Bear, Needles, and the Victorville area. Next. Okay, this slide shows the primary supply points for our California service areas. For our Northern California service area, Southwest Gas procures supply at Opal, which is a trading point for the Rocky Mountain production area, and at the Malin market point located at the California-Oregon border. For our Southern California service area, we again procure supply at Opal and also procure supply through the SoCalGas Citygate market on SoCalGas system. Next slide. Now I'm going to present or discuss forecast and actual temperatures for December through February last winter. The maps shown on the slide were incorporated in our opening comments. The map on the left forecasted temperatures it shows forecasted temperatures, and the map on the right shows actual temperatures for last December through February. The map on the left indicated only the northern border states were forecasted to have below normal temperatures. However, the map on the right shows approximately half of the lower 48 states experienced below normal temperatures during December through February. Also, also from information we gathered from our S&P Global Market Intelligence subscription, California experienced 24% more heating degree days, and the Pacific region experienced 18% more heating degree days than they both typically do during a normal year for December through February. Next slide, please. Oh, there seems to be one missing. Can you go up? Go up, please. Okay, our seasonal outlook. It seems to be missing. So, okay, we will go on to the next slide. But Pete of PG&E touched base on this. Looks like we're also missing. Okay, well, let's just go on with what's presented here. Okay, this slide shows the storage inventory graphs for the Pacific region. Both graphs show the 2018 through 2022 historical 5-year average inventory levels with a gray line, 2022 inventory levels with the green line, and 2023 levels with the blue line. The storage inventory graph on the left was included in our opening response comments. The storage inventory graph on the right is provided as an update for this workshop. Now, this graph shows that the October 13th inventory level this year exceeded the 2022 inventory level by 31 BCF and exceeded the 5-year average inventory level by 3 BCF for the same period last year. I want to note that the total Pacific region inventory level at the end of October last year was 30 BCF below the 5-year average going into last winter. Okay. Now, this slide shows the map of Kinder Morgan's pipeline system. El Paso transports supply from San Juan and Permian to California. As we all know, in August of 2021, El Paso's Line 2000, which is part of its southern mainline system, ruptured in the rural area near Coolidge, Arizona. The outage reduced more than a half a BCF per day of supply to the Western markets, which lasted through mid-February of this past winter. However, Southwest Gas is not aware of any long-term interstate pipeline interruptions that will affect supply procurement for this upcoming winter. Next, please. This final slide I have shows the November through March, first of the month, winter strip forward prices for our primary supply points going into last winter and this upcoming winter. At the time that we were preparing our opening response comments, the September 1st through September 15th forward prices indicated that the upcoming winter strip prices were approximately 25% lower than the winter strip forward prices going into last winter during the same period. For this workshop, we looked at the winter strip forward prices going into both winters based on settlement prices from September 1st through the third week in October this year and last year. Based on this trading period, this upcoming winter strip prices are approximately 13% lower than the winter strip forward prices last year. However, and I believe Ray touched on this earlier that of SoCal Gas, that the upcoming winter strip prices in October this year have ticked up since September, but the monthly forward prices supporting that strip are not indicating a repeat of last winter's high prices. So that concludes my part of the presentation. I will turn it over to Sean now.
Good morning. Thank you, Steve. And thank you to the Commission for the opportunity to present Southwest Gas's winter communications plans. If you don't mind flipping to my next slide. So our company is committed to meeting and exceeding our customers' expectations, and a big part of that is proactive communication and communication with value. We operate in some of the more mountainous, coldest areas of the state with the heaviest snow load. And based on learnings from past winters, the last 3 years, we've deployed an annual campaign to our customers in these areas, primarily providing them with safety information, weatherization tips, conservation tips, and other helpful information. Last year, and we'll get into it more in a minute, we did add a layer of new information related to high bills based on triggers that we had put in place previously as part of our planning process. This year, as we look ahead and take learnings from last year, we're really focused on making high bill information, particularly on our website, easier to find. It is there, but it's all over the place. And also, I think probably the most important thing is to make that information easier to understand for customers who we have to remember are laymen and not as tied in to our world as we are. Next slide, please. So our communication mix when we communicate with our customers is primarily owned, earned, and paid. We lean very heavily on owned, like I think most of our sister utilities do as well. Those are the things like our website, our bills, social media platforms, the stuff that we control, and that anchors our winter communication plans. And then we go with another layer of earned opportunities, which we use to amplify that messaging. That includes everything from organic social media to outreach to the media themselves. And then we do leverage in some paid advertorial and those types of opportunities. We bring in paid advertising when there are certain triggers met. And I'll go through those in a minute. Next slide, please. So why we do this is to get our customers on a journey of discovery. So, the first thing we need to do is make them aware that there is information available to them. That tends to be the broadest layer of what we do and leans heavily on paid. Last year, we ran digital banner ads primarily. We operate, our service territory is very rural and spread out. So digital works well for us from a geo-targeting standpoint. And then we drive them to the next layer, which is the on-bill messaging, things of that nature, to get them moving down the funnel to ultimately to engagement where they can get the information that they need and be informed. And our efforts last year did pay off with significant increase in web traffic to the winter bill pages. Next slide, please. So what triggers did we have in place? So when we put together our winter bill plans a few years ago, we determined that we would amplify or enhance our winter communications if there were short-term increases in the cost of natural gas. We saw that last year. Shortage is another part of the countries that required us to ask people to conserve or to give them a heads up that there could be a spike. And extreme cold or weather and non-seasonal events, which may drive increased use, which of course last year we saw some of the heaviest snow loads in 100 years in our service territory. And we met all three of these criterias, and we broadened our communications much more than in the past. Next slide, please. So some sample examples of what we did. We ran everything from banner ads. We used search as primarily connective tissue between the things. So if people were in our service territory looking for information on why are my gas bills higher or how can I conserve energy, we leveraged paid search. We ran lots of social. All of that drove to our website where they could get more information, understand how to save energy, contact somebody if they needed to, as well as get assistance or find out how they could get assistance on their bills. And then, of course, the bills themselves with messaging throughout the winter season. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the takeaway for us is that understanding bills is complex and not easy. And there are a lot of perceptions out there, good, bad, or otherwise, about how utilities do rate making and how this is done. And it's important for us to help people understand what goes into these bills and everything that's done from regulation and so on and so forth to assure that these folks are protected and we can only charge them reasonable rates. So we're bringing all of the information together on our website into a single area and focusing really hard with all of our internal collaborators on how do we make this information easier to understand and more palatable for our customers. We will continue to monitor the triggers and work with our folks like Steve. And in the event we see those activities take place, we will trigger them. We also this year began our proactive winter outreach campaign earlier. We started in August based on feedback from our operations folks that when winter comes fast in high mountainous regions, and that oftentimes by November or the middle of November they already have snow on the ground and winter is there and they don't have time to prep or winterize or whatever the case may be. So
Thank you.
That is the takeaways from us, and I'll pass it back to Christina.
Thank you, Steve and Sean. And Steve, just to let you know, I looked through the slides and the seasonal outlook slide was hidden from your deck, but I'd be happy to include that as part of the master deck that I send around to participants today. So thank you both. We will now turn it over to Mark Pokta, who will be speaking on behalf of Cal Advocates.
Well, thanks, Christina. Morning, everyone. Commissioner Douglas, ALJ Stevens, and all the participants. Just here for a few minutes to make a few observations about the gas market, kind of from an independent perspective. And a lot of it is what you've already heard. So I wrote down, I guess I was looking at what are some of the positives. And some of the positives are U.S. gas storage is at a surplus right now. California gas storage levels are higher relative to what they were last year. So there's more gas in storage in California, in both Northern and Southern California. And that's a big positive because you have marketers and non-core customers that are storing more gas this year. And so it's not, they'll be able to withdraw at what they see as optimal times during the winter, and it won't be just the major gas utilities moving gas in and out of storage relative to last year. Again, because you have more gas in storage in Northern California, and you had more gas being stored in the SoCal system with gas being injected at Aliso. The next thing is there's no major interstate capacity limitations or issues relative to last year. You've heard some of that already. You had the issues on the El Paso system. The NYMEX winter strip is running about $3 to $3.50 per decatherm. And if you look at Henry Hub, that was about, that's not my apartment, that's outside if you can hear it. They're doing sweeping. Anyway, the NYMEX winter strips at about $3 to $3.50, and Henry Hub is around $3 right now. It's kind of interesting because I looked you can look on Google and look at the Henry Hub price. It's interesting that the Henry Hub price was up at around $6 at the same time this time last year, and I didn't realize it was that high, that Henry Hub was that high last year. PG&E posted its November WACOG and procurement price just yesterday, I believe. They issued their tariffs. And their WACOG's $3.62 a decatherm, and their procurement price is around $7. So again, relatively reasonable prices. But as pointed out, what's the negative? On the negatives was something pointed out by SoCalGas. You still have relatively strong prices at the California border, both currently and on a forward basis, relative to, let's say, those NYMEX and Henry Hub prices. So again, you still, just the basics are that you have stronger prices currently and going into the winter and through the winter. And then, of course, the final issue is the unknowns, and that, of course, is weather, the great equalizer. And just note that it was kind of cool this morning in Northern California. If anyone noticed, it was, I think, in the 40s in San Francisco, and it fell down in the 30s in the East Bay. So again, that's always an unknown. One final thing I wanted to touch on is customer concerns. I think they're relatively, the big ones are always bills, and specifically high bills. And, what can the utilities do? Of course, I think there's the basic information is how to conserve, how to manage, how to reduce consumption. And for those customers that are having trouble paying bills, I know that the utilities do offer payment plans, and offering payment plans is an option to customers so they can levelize their bills and pay it off over time. I think is very helpful to those customers having those issues. And that concludes my comments. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Mark. All right, well, that concludes the presentations from our first panel. It is now time for Q&A. So first, I'd like to see if Commissioner Douglas has a question for any of our panelists.
Thank you, Christina. I have one question, and I was thinking initially for SoCalGas, but I actually think it would be helpful if PG&E provided some insight as well. And I just wanted to probe a little bit in terms of the difference between the just the elevated forward prices that we're seeing going forward, even though conditions are, as you've explained in your responses, a bit better coming into this winter than they were. And I just wondered if you could elaborate on that a bit, and in particular for SoCalGas and the SoCal Citygate market, if you could speak to why forward prices remain high, even as restrictions on Aliso have been lifted. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Douglas. First, I'll give Ray Sasaki an opportunity to respond.
Sure. So I'll put this in the perspective of what the market may be telling, and so with regard to just general winter pricing, there are a couple of elements that drive those prices. So it has to do with what do shocks in the marketplace look like given the current market conditions for the upcoming winter? And then there's some probabilities associated with it. And I don't want to get too technical, but there's a difference when shocks may be really extreme, but a lower probability. But if should those conditions occur, it's detrimental and creates a really extreme shock, as opposed to maybe there's higher prices that it's not as high and prices can be, the conditions are sensitive to the point where should conditions get to where the supply demand balance is tighter, maybe prices are higher than where they are currently, and the probability of reaching those is also higher, and both can yield the same price levels. And I think that's what the market is projecting and factoring in the sense that even though current conditions are much better balanced for this upcoming winter than say the previous winter, on a forward basis, it may be factoring in that there's a smaller tolerance on what could create a tighter supply demand balance and put some upward pressure on prices. So and that's why I portrayed it as elevated should those conditions occur, elevated but less extreme. And the market may be saying that how you get to those elevated prices may be a higher probability than what you might see in other years where those conditions would yield an extreme price event.
Thank you for that response, Ray. I would also like to give Pete an opportunity to respond to Commissioner Douglas.
I'm sure. Thank you for the question. We see several things. First, the ongoing drought in the Pacific Northwest is having a big impact on gas demand, both in the Northwest and especially in Northern California, as we do depend somewhat on imports. Also, I think financial markets in general do not like uncertainty, and the big unknown coming into winter is weather, of course. And we have a fairly tight supply-demand balance, so small events can really trigger big price moves from what we've been seeing. And we see some evidence in that when you look at option premiums for financial options back in the supply basins within the U.S., Western U.S. You see very high volatilities and very high premiums. So that shows a nervousness and a potential concerns about this coming winter. And also when you're trying to buy natural gas supply at a bid-week or first-of-month index, suppliers are demanding very high premiums on top of the index. And that is indication that they believe that we're in for some volatility this winter, and there's even some reluctance to sell that gas on a forward basis, just because they want to be able to take advantage of that volatility. So I think it's partially, fundamental supply demand and the drought in the Northwest, and partially market perception and concerns about a volatile price environment this winter.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Our next, Commissioner Douglas, did you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from Eileen Holofka. Jennifer Walker, this question is for you. She'd like to know if you can repeat the name of the company that conducted the qualitative study that you referenced. Okay, I'll move on to our next question, but Jennifer, feel free to type in the name of the company in the chat box for everyone to see if you get a chance. Our next question, Roger Person has his hand up. So I will unmute you, Roger, and you can ask your question. Roger, you are unmuted. All right, I will move on to Jennifer with turn, who also has a question. Jennifer, you are unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. So quick question about the utility plans in case we see gas price spikes this winter. And my question is this, does any of the information you're planning to put out there around conservation include estimates about what a typical bill would save if they heeded the tips that you are proposing, both in a normal year and also in a year like last year? And the reason I'm asking this is that I think conservation messages are hard for people to quantify in terms of dollars and cents, and I think you have a great opportunity to quantify them here. And that's my question.
Jennifer, is your question directed to a specific utility or
Directed
anyone
to
can?
it's directed to all utilities because they all have this plan to reach out by text and say pretty much after triggers, right? You guys might get a high bill, customers. And so I'm asking if the information they're planning to push in that channel will have price relevance and price example relevance to kind of tie the message up for customers.
Thank you, Jennifer. I open up the floor to any of our utilities to respond to her question.
This is Sean Corbett at Southwest Gas. I love that idea. And it kind of goes to the context of what I was saying about helping people understand and connect those dots. You know, our website has an energy savings portal, but it's based on an average bill. But I think based on this idea, we'll definitely take that feedback and explore those options because it'll help us accomplish our goals.
I'll chime in here as well. This is Donna from SDG&E. I think these are also great suggestions that we can think through how to best factor and implement. But one of the things that we did last winter is we automatically enrolled all of our customers in our energy alerts notifications. We feel that the energy alerts are more tailored to specific customers' usage and provides a forecast for them. And so with these energy alerts, you can sign up for either a weekly alert to see how you're doing and get a forecast for what that may look like at the end of the month for you. You can sign up for a midway alert to kind of get an assessment midway through your billing cycle and what that forecast could look like. Or you can even set an alert when you might be reaching a certain dollar threshold. And so we think that provides kind of more specific information for individual customers. But I do appreciate the suggestions and the questions, and we will take that back and see what else we can do to enhance that information for our customers.
Thank you, Donna. We are running a bit behind, but I would like to read one more question aloud. And this question is from Joseph Turney. The question is, are there specific conditions that trigger customer bill alerts? For example, if prices are projected to exceed the prior month's average or another historical baseline by a certain percentage. Should the CPUC establish such a trigger and require customer alerts if the conditions are met? I will allow anyone on the panel to respond to that. Christy, yes.
Yeah, I'll go. It is an interesting question. We have an alerts program like Donna just shared, where customers set their triggers. So something like this that comes over on top of that could create perhaps confusion with customers, but also maybe an annoyance, in terms of an over communication. They've already taken the steps to determine when they want to be communicated with, if there's going to be an impact to their bill. So pushing additional messages may be unwanted by customers. So I think it's something that we'd have to really think through. How do we manage the communication to make sure that we aren't creating frustration or anger with customers, since many have already taken the time to set those alerts for themselves.
Thank you, Christy. All right, so I want to thank all of our panelists for the insightful presentations and responses to the questions. We are running about 5 minutes behind, so we are going to go ahead and take our break, but I am going to ask that we take a 5-minute break instead of a 10-minute break since we are running behind. So folks, please be back by 10:16, and we will get started with our second panel. Thank you. All right, folks, welcome back. I think we can get started with our second panel discussion of the day. Next slide, please. Thank you, Olivia. This panel will focus on all things storage and enhanced communications regarding inventory levels. First, I'd like to welcome Roger Schwakey, who will speak on behalf of SoCalGas and SDG&E.
Thanks, Christina. Can we go with my next slide, or the slide? And we can go to the next slide. First of all, thank the commission and for giving me the opportunity to talk about our system readiness. And I'm on the operations side, so I look at it from a system ready standpoint. We look at safe, reliable, and affordable service and efficiency for our customers to be able to bring gas into the system to meet their demand needs. There's three pillars that we look at when we look at system readiness. First is pipeline capacity, and that's the ability to bring gas in from the interstates, as 95% of our gas that's consumed in Southern California is produced outside the state. And those come through our receipt points, which we have 7 receipt points on this graph. You can see they are the red dots on here that interconnect us with interstate, intrastate, and international pipelines. We look at that in our ability to move gas to the demand centers, primarily in the Southern California area, would be in the Los Angeles area or down in San Diego for the city of San Diego and along those corridors. Let's go to the next slide. I'd like to start off with all the information that I'm sharing today is publicly available on our electronic bulletin board we call Envoy. We have information that is publicly available without a logon. So you can go on SoCalGas.envoy.com and you can see forecasted sendouts, available receipt capacity, storage capacities. You can see where we stand on how much gas is coming in the system on a given day, our daily storage levels and capacities, along with the historical trends with regard to our storage inventory capacities and any planned maintenance activity and capacity impacts that we have. In addition, which is new, I shouldn't say new, we restarted our monthly storage program. Information on that is also publicly available on SoCalGas Envoy. Let's go to the next slide, please. I'd like to start with kind of the timeline of events for this year to get us to where we believe we're operationally ready for this winter, considering any potential scenarios. Obviously, extreme scenarios or extreme issues with pipelines may cause differences, but we feel we're ready for this coming winter. And as was mentioned earlier, you had the El Paso pipeline, line 2000, was restored in February. We have restored some of our pipelines, including our line 4000 in April. And to enhance it, our capability, we did file our PFM for the leasehold inventory increase and elimination of the withdrawal protocol for use of Aliso Canyon. As we progressed through the year, we basically actually had Aliso Canyon full in August, middle of August, for the original inventory capacity of 41 BCF. So we had to actually stop injections at that period of time. The commission, and thank the commission for granting our request to increase the capacity of Aliso Canyon to the 68.6 BCF, and we resumed injections right after the 1st of September. What that also did, it allowed us to restart our unbundled storage program that we were able to then sell storage capacity, inventory capacity to customers other than the core customers that are allocated those capacities. And I'll talk more about that later in the presentation. In addition, in September, the Aliso Canyon withdrawal protocol was removed, which creates the certainty for the marketplace that they can then use Aliso Canyon in the whole calculation of OFOs and just providing supply. And we do expect to have our line 235 back in service around the first week in November, which will put us in a situation where our receipt capacity or our pipeline capacity to bring gas in the system probably at a 7-year high, will probably be somewhere close to 3.5 BCF of capacity on a peak basis, which is a lot is dependent upon if we have any issues with pipeline, but it's also dependent upon demand. In particular, with regard to our southern system, the amount of gas that we can bring in through the southern system through El Paso pipeline at Ehrenberg is limited to the demand in the southern system. Otherwise, you know, that demand is driving the receipts because we can't move gas through that system into the LA basin and into storage, whereas we can with our other points coming from the northern parts of our system. There's something I'd also like to point out. Twice a year, we have inventory shut-ins at our storage fields that are required by CalGEMS. We have what are called low inventory shut-ins, where we're basically validating the integrity of the reservoir. Those occurred during the March and May timeframe on the low basis. But we also have high inventory shut-ins that are required by CalGEM, which required us to actually take Aliso Canyon and Ana Rancho. And Ana Rancho is still out of service today. It should be back before the November 1st timeframe. But that takes off injection capacity, but we have to have those done based on regulations. I would also like to point out during September through mid-October, we did have pipeline outages that were due to Storm Hilary on our southern system. Those pipelines are now back in service, so we have our full capability, and we'll have it once we bring line 235 back. Let's go to the next slide, please. You know, I mentioned pipeline capacity. When we look at is our system ready, from an average standpoint, the pipeline capacity, you can see on the graph on the left, since 2018, how our pipeline capacity has grown to the point where it is at the highest level. Last year was at the highest level in 6 years. Obviously, we're 1 year later, and we're even higher this year. So we feel comfortable that we have sufficient pipeline capacity to meet the demand criteria, which is that 1 in 10 for all customers and 1 in 35 full year for core customers. The one question that always rests, we provide the capacity, we don't fill the pipe up with supply. And the graph on the right shows how there is a difference between what we're making available capacity versus how it's utilized by the marketplace. That's critical, especially when we're looking at injections, because each time we can inject gas in our storage fields, not only does it add more supply to the situation, but it increases our withdrawal capacity. That probably averages about every, BCF or 1.5 BCF adds to about 20 million of withdrawal capacity. Let's go to the next slide. So with regard to our specific storage levels, and it's been mentioned, throughout the first presentation, the amount of storage that we currently have in inventory today. The graph on the right is kind of that trend, the 5-year trend, and the range. And you can see the blue line obviously is 2022, and the darker line is the 2023 numbers. And you can see that we're above the 2022 number, and we expect to be even higher as we go through the remaining part of October and November. The graph on the right, which is actually directly out of our Envoy system, you can see where you have the ability to look not only in total inventory capacity, but each of the fields and where we stand today. Today, we're probably over actually 95 BCF, which this time last year, we were somewhere in the high 80s, with Aliso Canyon being, at 50 BCF in the other storage fields. This shows where we are higher today in our storage inventories than we have been in 7 years. So from that standpoint, we're in a good position, not only from a supply capability, but also from a withdrawal capability to be able to serve peak demands. So that's a good story with regard to our storage inventory levels. Let's go to the next slide, please. As we look at our storage capacities, and this will be part of our winter Texas assessment that will be issued sometime around the second week in November, that lays out a lot of the information on how we look at our readiness and are we ready and why we believe we're ready. The graph on the left, the light blue line shows what transpired last year, and the bounciness of the graph there on withdrawal capacity was because of the Aliso Canyon withdrawal protocol was not basically available Aliso was not available during those periods of time until the protocol was triggered. If we took the assumption that customers rely mostly on receipt capacity or pipeline capacity, you could see we're on a withdrawal basis in a mass balance, we probably will not leverage on storage. But the graph on the right shows if you were to look at a scenario that was similar to 2022, you can see how that withdrawal capacity and the storage inventory levels will fall similar to what they did last year. But it's hard to see on this graph, but you can see that we're actually, because we're starting at higher inventory levels, we have more our withdrawal capacity will be higher even if we had the same inventory levels we had last year. So again, from a reliability standpoint, that's critical for us to look at meeting that peak demand of the customers. Let's go to the next slide. One question has come up with regard to the unbundled storage program. The unbundled storage program was paused back in 2016. We basically have resumed the unbundled storage program because of the Aliso Canyon increasing capacity going up to 68.6 BCF, which allows for 27 BCF of storage capacity to be sold to customers. Creditworthy customers can purchase that capacity through our rate schedules that we have for those services. Inventory levels firm, but all the injection withdrawal capacities are on an interruptible basis. So we posted and started actively pursuing customers to purchase the unbundled storage program inventory. As of October, we've sold about 9 BCF that storage capacity. All that information on who has purchased that storage capacity, what's the capacity amount, the terms, and the price are posted on our Envoy system. Let's go to the next slide. I wanted to highlight how you can see where we started the program in first part of November. Time we started contracting, it was almost 2 weeks later, and then it really picked up when we had the Aliso Canyon withdrawal protocol, because that allowed the marketplace to realize, hey, I can put gas in and I'll be able to get access to it, and I can plan my use of storage much better with the Aliso Canyon withdrawal protocol removed. So that, I think, is my last slide, and I'll look forward. Let me go one more slide. I wasn't going to go over this, but it's gone over a lot. Seasonal temperature, the weather forecast, it's looking to be fairly mild this winter. The picture on the left is really what it looked like in January, but if you went back even farther than that, we know it was forecast to be a little milder than it actually happened. So the one thing we know about weather forecasts is there's a high chance they're wrong, because all these graphs are just probability. They're not necessarily an insurance. Weather forecasts will basically just will depend, and they're known to be wrong. So I'll stop there and look forward to questions during the Q&A session.
Thank you, Roger. So now we will move on to PG&E. We have Lucy Redmond and Alfred Musgrove.
Good morning. Great. Thank you, Christina. Just confirming you can hear me all right.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. All right. Great. So my name is Lucy Redmond, and I'm Director of Gas Facilities and Storage Engineering here at PG&E. And I'm joined by my colleague, Alfred Musgrove, who's Director of Gas Control. And our departments are responsible for managing asset integrity, as well as the safe operation of PG&E's gas transmission, distribution, and gas storage facilities. So for the purposes of this panel, I plan to address 2 topic areas. The first being current storage levels and how they compare to storage levels from last year. And secondly, I'll cover the enhanced communication tools available on PG&E's Pipe Ranger website regarding the system inventory levels and the various components of the storage portfolio provided there. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So as we've been hearing throughout both panels here, storage is in an excellent position going into winter, specifically Northern California. And this chart was presented earlier by my colleague on the first panel and shows the current 2023 storage levels in the red line and how they compare to the storage levels from 2022 in the blue line throughout the year. And as you can see, it's a very positive outlook. And I want to stress the fact that this year, the current levels, including PG&E owned storage and the 4 ISTs in PG&E service territories, are strongly situated at high inventory levels, essentially at the maximum of the 5-year range, shown in that gray spread there. And this is definitely a better position than 2022. As you can see, that was the middle of the gray spread at this time last year. So to reiterate, storage inventory is in a really good position as we head into winter and the upcoming withdrawal season. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide, please. So PG&E offers 3 firm storage services as provided, as approved in the 2019 gas transmission and storage rate case decision to implement the natural gas storage strategy, or the NGSS, and that became effective April 1 of 2020. The first element of this is the core firm storage services, and that allots 5 BCS of inventory capacity in which they're obligated to fill to 80% by December 1st. And Pete alluded to it, but I'll just reiterate that we are in a very good position here. We're strongly situated with already over 90% filled at this point. Secondly, PG&E has 5 BCF allotted to inventory management to use for daily pipeline inventory. And this inventory level is dependent on suppliers under and over deliveries into the system. And lastly, we have 1 BCF of reserve capacity available to use to mitigate any supply disruptions. So these 3 firm services have a combined total firm winter withdrawal obligation of 857 million cubic feet a day to maintain winter reliability and provide operational flexibility needed to ensure safe operations on PG&E systems. For a full picture of storage services provided in PG&E service territory, it's important to note that as part of the NGSS implementation, PG&E transitioned traditional non-core firm storage and a portion of core firm services to the ISPs. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. PG&E's Pipe Ranger website is a public website that gasifiers, marketers, and the gas industry uses. And on Pipe Ranger, PG&E provides comprehensive data on its daily injection, its withdrawal activities for the ISP, and PG&E storage activities. Information provided on Pipe Ranger also includes PG&E's daily total working gas inventory and imbalance in storage. Further, the website provides the current state of the system and forecasted statuses for the system, including any OFOs or planned maintenance. On the slide, you'll see a screenshot of our operating data historical archives webpage that's available on the Pipe Ranger website. And as you can see from the bulleted list, it's a comprehensive archive of the types of data that I just mentioned, dating back as far as 1998. The last thing I wanted to mention here is, as part of PG&E's monthly meetings with the CPUC, the Energy Division staff is kept apprised of the current inventory levels, any recent and planned maintenance on the system, OFOs that have occurred, and any CalGEM-related impacts to withdrawal or injection. So in closing, as far as enhanced communication tools regarding inventory levels on PG&E's Pipe Ranger website, PG&E provides a comprehensive overview for both PG&E-owned total storage working gas level and for the ISPs. Thank you for your time this morning, and I will pass it back to Christina.
Thank you, Lucy. Next up, we have Jason Dubchak, who is representing Rock Point Gas Storage Services, which owns Wild Goose Gas Storage and Lodi Gas Storage in Northern California.
Thanks very much, Christina. And thank you, ALJ Stevens and Commissioner Douglas, for inviting us to chat today. Very briefly, my name is Jason Dubchak. I'm VP General Counsel and deal with all of our legal and regulatory issues in California, and have been with the business for the past, I guess, 22 years in dealing with not only the CPUC, but landowners and our business in California. So thank you again. I also wanted to, for those of you who are unaware, about 8 years ago, approximately. We were purchased by Brookfield, and Brookfield owns 6 natural gas storage facilities across Canada and the US, which totals up to about 260 BCF of capacity. And Brookfield, sort of on a wider basis, owns and manages about $850 billion worth of assets across the globe, primarily consisting of sort of 4 different areas: renewables, infrastructure, of which Wild Goose and Lodi are included, energy, and real estate. So if we could move to the next slide. This is just a nice picture of our Wild Goose facility. Very briefly, Wild Goose is about, well, it is certificated for 75 BCF of capacity. We can withdraw about 950 MMBTU per day and 525 injection. We're located in Butte County, near the town of Gridley, and we were the first independent natural gas storage facility commencing commercial operations in 1999. We're connected to 400, 401, and PG&E Citygate is a major delivery point. The next slide, please. And so this is our Lodi facility, next to obviously a big wind farm. Commenced commercial operations in 2002. We're located sort of near the San Francisco, Sacramento load areas, again connected to 400, 401. We have 2 facilities, the Lodi facility and the Kirby Hills expansion facility, that operate as a hub with 31 BCF of inventory capacity, 750 of withdrawal capacity, and 550 of injection capacity. Next slide. So this just shows sort of the connectivity that we have to not only market centers, but supply centers as well across Canada and the US. Obviously, we've got other facilities up here in Alberta, and we're headquartered out of Calgary, Alberta, and so it gives us some flexibility to be able to serve a number of different markets. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is just really a reiteration of much of what I've said already. I think there's not much else we need to go over here again, but it really does just sort of speak to the breadth and depth of our experience in the natural gas storage business. Next slide, please. Don't need to talk about me any further. And this is really where sort of the key points that I wanted to hit on today. I think one of the things that needs to be differentiated and pointed out is that the ISPs are very much different than the IOUs. We do not have captive ratepayers, and as such, we were given market-based rates when we went into operation. And so that really differentiates us in terms of how, from a regulatory basis, we're treated, and some sensitivities that we may have that other IOUs may not have. In terms of our transactions, you know, obviously everyone provides EIA information, but you know, we also provide actual copies of our contracts to the CPUC every month on the 15th. And so the CPUC is very much aware of our contracts down to significant minutia. And so that is, I think that's important to realize that there is a lot of information that's already provided. I know that CVGS Central Valley has some further information in their slides, but there is a significant amount of information that is provided to the CPUC confidentially and not confidentially. And you know, one of the things that we think is appropriate to bring up today is, you know, again, PG&E, SoCal, SDG&E, they are not at risk for their returns to, in our case, a shareholder. They're able to recoup their costs from the rate base. We have no such rate base. And, you know, we're not generally providing services to non-core customers. We may provide services to PG&E, but that's, you know, from time to time, and we're not directly providing any kind of service to the actual customers as PG&E is. The other thing that we thought needed to be pointed out today is that we're very cautious and concerned that we don't want to distort the market. And to the extent that we are publicly disclosing to non-core customers, you know, inventory levels at a given time, you know, if we say to the market, oh, out of our 75 BCF at Wild Goose, we have a half a BCF left, that could have an unintended consequence of actually spiking prices. And then on sort of the opposite side of things, to the extent that we have 20 BCF that's uncontracted because it's been a down year, then that could collapse prices for the rest of the storage providers. So we're just wanting to be cautious about any distortions or any effects on the market there. The other thing that we did make this point in the PG&E's general rate case, but you know, we think that there's an opportunity for PG&E to contract more if they're concerned about price issues and distortions in the market in the winter or the summer, for that matter. It's easily solved by, you know, taking out a contract that gives them that security of supply, and then they're not going to have to worry about it. So we also think that that's an important piece to remember. And then I guess the last thing is maybe a wild goose Lodi issue. But when we were merged with the Brookfield assets, there was a condition that was required for us to keep our pricing and operational information separate from one another. And we take that seriously. And we're concerned that to the extent that we're having to do anything further than disclose it to the CPUC, we're concerned that we might be offside of our promise to do so. So it's more of a wild goose Lodi issue, but something that again I think we should take into consideration. So that concludes my prepared remarks. I look forward to Q&A. And with that, I'll turn it back to Christina.
Thank you, Jason. Our last panelist of the day is Dave Marchese with Caliche Development Partners, the new owners of Central Valley Gas Storage.
Good. It's afternoon here in Texas. Good morning, everyone in California and on the West Coast. I am Dave Marchese. I'm here with Caliche Development Partners. We typically start our meetings with a safety moment, and I think I'm just going to use this quick intro as part of my safety moment, which is that we believe that the well-being of our employees and all of our stakeholders that are physically surrounded by the assets comes first. We can't do anything else if we don't keep those people safe. And so we believe that's where we start. It's something I talk about from the top down. And that is, I think, I've seen an excellent safety culture as I've gone up and down California and have interacted with some of the utilities as well as the other ISPs. So I think we're all in good hands and look forward to continuing that type of safe operation in the state of California with underground storage. The next slide shows our Central Valley Gas Storage asset. We have an 11 BCF asset within the Princeton gas field. It's about 15 miles plus or minus to lines 400 and 401. That is how we serve our primary customers. It was designed, it's about 11 years old, and it was designed to meet the California STAR program on extremely low methane emissions. We continue to look for ways to reduce our methane emissions. We are one of the lower methane emissions assets in the country, and we're very happy about the way that this asset has been operating. And again, we look forward to continuing that. Just some stats there on number of wells. We have base gas, and I'll talk a bit about base gas. We can go in at 300 a day and come out at 300 a day. And we do that with about 10,600 horsepower of gas-fired compression. And it's just some photos of some D-high as well as the wellhead, one of our that looks like an upper zone wellhead. The next slide is a description of our other asset and both assets together. So we are a private capital backed company. We have two assets currently in Caliche, the Central Valley Gas Storage asset, which is in Princeton, as I described, and the Golden Triangle Storage asset, which is in Jefferson County, Texas. We also are in the CO2 sequestration business, or at least we are working towards that. We have secured 4,000 acres in Jefferson County. We are in the Class 6 permitting process with the EPA for that property and currently looking for customers there. As we get settled into California, this is one of my personal goals, and one of the goals of the company is to bring what we think is industry-leading safety and design and operation of storing molecules underground, and take that team and bring it to CO2. This does not distract from our gas storage business, but we think that we are well positioned to do both. So it's just something that as we grow, we would love to do. And as I mentioned, I'm very happy about being in business in California and looking forward to growing. The next slide is the team of which I'm the CEO. I've been in this business almost 25 years, have stored all types of things in underground formations and salt caverns, reservoirs. I've done oil, gas, liquids, ethylene. We've done helium underground storage. We're very good at small molecules. And again, we do this safely and we keep everything where it's supposed to be. That's this whole management team's mantra. The balance of the team has been together. 4 of the 5 of us have been together for 7 years. And we're excited again about coming to California for our CFO. It's his second time around in California. In the early days of Lodi Gas Storage, he was also the CFO there. So we'll move on to what I saw as the first question of 2 questions. So when I got this invitation, and thank you for the invitation, I saw 2 questions. The first was about working gas and base gas, and the second was about reporting. And so I took those 2 questions and I wanted to just sort of level set on what is working gas, what is base gas. I think that it's helpful to look at some illustrative pictures. I'm a picture person. And so when you think about underground storage, you have this reservoir in California. All of our reservoirs are in this porous rock. It has a cap over it that keeps that gas in place. And there's 2 levels of gas, if you will, the working gas and the base gas. And I'm here showing a saline water drive. Below our gas storage facility, there is non-potable water that drives the pressure in the reservoir. And the chart on the right is a hysteresis curve, which is a fancy word for something that moves relative to another measured thing. So the 2 things that are moving are inventory and deliverability. And the inventory level changes the deliverability in the asset. You heard Roger mention this. He alluded to this fact when he was talking about the inventory levels and deliverability in the utilities gas storage assets. I'm going to talk at it from a much higher level, kind of the conceptual, why is that? And the reason is that when you're working on inventory levels, as you get lower in the inventory, the pressure in the facility goes down. When the pressure in the facility goes down, you can see that's on the left-hand side of the chart, the deliverability goes down, which those 2 are directly related, the pressure and the deliverability. There's a point when the pressure is so low that you lose deliverability, and that's the point where working gas turns to base gas. So base gas, just think of it as sort of the minimum inventory in this reservoir. And it's not something you can pull out for deliverability in the winter. The other thing you'll notice here is the higher the inventory, the higher the pressure, and the better the deliverability. So one thing that I didn't prepare, but since we've seen it in the prior slides, I'd just like to mention, while we didn't own the facility in the past winter, I do have all the data on inventory. Central Valley Gas Storage had the highest levels of inventory in its 11-year history going into the winter last winter. So November and December of last winter, CVGS was number 1, completely sold, and number 2, completely full, which allowed us to have all the deliverability. Again, I wasn't the owner at the time, but the asset delivered every time it was called upon with the type of deliverability that was needed by the customers during these price excursions. And we look forward to doing that again this season. We are at near historic inventories again as we sit here today. So we see us going into the winter on the right-hand side of this the hysteresis chart. And we look forward to serving California in what is hopefully maybe more of a mild winter, and we don't have to test all of the lower inventory withdrawals. The next slide talks about our reporting relationships, and it's just wanted to talk about, we as a company have reporting on both Golden Triangle and Central Valley Gas Storage. So we thought we would walk through kind of who we report to and how we report to them. One thing you'll notice is California does have better logos, specifically CalGEM's logo. I love that bear. And it is a little confusing because it's Department of Conversation, but I think everybody on this call knows who CalGEM is. And of course, the public advocates and the PUC. So you can see that we do, on the federal level, we do one more set of reporting over at Golden Triangle because we are an interstate facility, so we report to the FERC. And on the Central Valley side, we report more to the state because we are an intrastate facility. The next slide has a little more detail on exactly what and how we report. So, you know, walking through what we report at Golden Triangle, we report to the EIA, I guess at both facilities. Those are exactly the same: working gas, base gas, total facility gas, in storage, injections, and withdrawals. Those are weekly, monthly, and annually. And those are across any gas storage facility in the country. We do report to the FERC, I think, in a way that this panel is asking about, as far as what the capabilities are. Those reports are annually and upon in-service, so they are not a rolling report, as we've kind of seen here from the regulated utilities. I think it's of note that both of our facilities are market-based rate facilities. So we have the authority to charge market-based rates on both of these facilities. That also means that if we don't go out to the market and tell the market when we have open space to sell, we don't sell that space and we don't make money. And it's most important for us to be out there letting everyone know how we make money. The balance of the reporting, PHMSA, again, that's federal and it's both. And then on the California reporting, you've got the storage capacities, injection withdrawal capacities, all periodic with CPUC. We also have the CalGEM reporting and the advocates reporting. All of that are in a couple of slides behind this one that I'm not going to go through, but I wanted you all to have for the record, and to the extent you have additional questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you very much for having me, and look forward to helping you all understand what we do.
Thank you, Dave. So that concludes the presentations from our second panel, and it is now time for Q&A. I have seen several questions come in through the chat, but first I'd like to check in with Commissioner Douglas to see if she has any questions for our panelists.
Thank you, Christina. I do have a couple of questions, and the first one is for SoCalGas, and I wanted to just ask a little more about the unbundled storage program and why it appears, at least, that purchases are still relatively low at this point. Do you anticipate seeing more capacity purchases before the start of next winter? And how does this year compare to historical?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Commissioner. I kind of expect that we'll probably sell some more storage, but it's all dependent on the market. You have to have gas prices, and we've already seen information how gas prices are a little bit higher today. You got to have that differential for the non-core customers to see the economic advantage of buying gas today for use in December. So whether that actually materializes, don't know. Well, it should have capacity to utilize, but whether they can see the economic advantage of buying gas and storing it for use in December, January, or February. I really don't address that. We make the capacity available. Historically, we've seen, the use of storage, and this goes back to pre-2015. It varied on a year-by-year basis based on that summer-winter price differential. People were more interested, obviously, when they saw future prices be much higher. So it could change quickly or not change at all. Hopefully, I answered your question.
All right. Well, thank you. A question for PG&E, and it's about the information on the Pipe Ranger website, which, as you know, provides information about PG&E's total working gas storage inventory. Why, would the market benefit from knowing about the inventory of base gas as well as working gas? There may have been some confusion about that, at least last year. And I guess my question is, would it make sense to update the website to clearly indicate total gas and storage and then break that down by working gas versus base gas?
Hi, Commissioner. Yes, thank you for the question. So I think at this point in time, that's not a big deal for us to do. It's something we can definitely look at, including and have that breakout of the working and the cushion gas, and as well as the total. Thank you.
Okay. Super. Thank you. I think I have one more question, and just based off of the Rockpoint presentation, I think the question is, would it make sense? What would the benefits be of having more transparency about how much capacity exists for purchase from the ISPs? And so I thought it might be helpful if you could talk a little bit more about what you see as the pros and cons of providing the kind of information that, for example, you can see from PG&E and SoCalGas's websites, or at least to some degree, information on inventory levels.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I think really the disparate sort of positioning of us versus an IOU is that we're not able to recoup any kinds of costs or losses, as it were, from a rate base. And so I think, if we get a telephone call or an email from an interested customer that says, I'd like to see what your price is on 1 BCF of gas for this term at this particular rate, we're more than happy to, if we have it available, to quote them a price. But if what we're saying is, oh, we've got 20 BCF or we have a half a BCF, we're just concerned about potentially distorting the market one way or another. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It could hurt or help us. And so, as a potential non-core customer, you could call us up at any given time and ask for a quotation on, a specific product in terms of term, rate, and inventory. And I'm sure there would be no problem giving them one. So that's available, all the time. But there is a potential distortion if it's in real time, and it could potentially, hurt ISPs, or it could distort the market, and that's what we're just trying to avoid.
All right, thanks for elaborating. Those are my questions right now, so I'll turn this back to Christina.
Thank you, Commissioner Douglas. The first question that came in through the chat, well, there are actually several for SoCal Gas. The first question is from Tyson Siegel. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing your last name. Line 235 is still listed as TBD end date of outage at a 285 million cubic feet capacity reduction. Is Envoy inaccurate?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Envoy is not inaccurate. We don't have a specific date in which that line will return to service, so therefore we continue to post it as TBD. It's our expectation that it will be back in service prior to the onset of the winter period.
Thank you for that response. Another question from Tyson again for you, Roger. SoCal Gas still retained 36.9 BCF in storage on March 31st, 2023, end of the 22-23 withdrawal season. How does additional gas storage help if SoCal Gas withholds the gas from customers?
So I'll take it from the operational side. From my perspective, the capacity was available to be utilized. We did not withhold that capacity from the marketplace. We make all capacity available every given day throughout the cycles of scheduling. What ended up happening, that's, part of market dynamics. I'm not aware of that. So we continue to make those capacity available throughout the winter, throughout the period of time, unless we have those maintenance shutdowns like we have for low inventory shut-ins or high inventory shut-ins.
Thank you. The next question is from Gene Spencer. The question is for PG&E. Could you talk a bit about your park and loan program and how that impacts total storage inventory and withdrawal capacity?
Sure, and thank you for the question. So as I mentioned on one of my slides, we had the NGSS implementation, and with that decision, we also retained our CPUC approved parking and lending tariffs. And so there is additional capacity beyond that 11 BCF that I highlighted, but it's really dependent on market needs and then any injection constraints that we're experiencing. And essentially this year, the economics for storage injections have been very favorable, and we've been able to park over this 23-24 winter period for that to be used for maintaining pressure support at our storage facilities. Kalichi touched on this and did a great job highlighting the relationship between pressure support needed and withdrawal capacity. And this is really critical as we are in the process of restoring capacity lost due to the CalGEM regulations. And we're also still awaiting a decision from CalGEM on what our well inspection frequency is going to be. And with the regulations putting the wells in a dual barrier construction, we've essentially lost withdrawal capacity by 40%. So that addition of pressure support is really, really critical to ensure that we can meet our withdrawal obligations through the end of the season. Thank you.
Thank you for that response, Lucy. The next question, again, is from Tyson for Roger. Temperatures have been a focus regarding the 2022-23 winter. However, the SoCal Gas data from Envoy shows that the composite weighted average temperature for your territory was actually colder in the 2015-2016 winter and the 2016-2017 winter. Why is SoCal Gas discussing average temperatures instead of composite weighted average temperature?
Yeah, thanks for the question. We use composite weighted average temperatures because when you look at our system from the coast to the mountains, it changes dramatically from different temperature zones. I mean, if you look this past winter in Lake Arrowhead, there was 10 feet of snow, and just on the other side of the mountain, there wasn't. And it's really not a good comparison to use temperatures. I think what you have to look at is more heating degree days, which is kind of the standard. And if you look at heating degree days for last year in the SoCal Gas service territory, that number was probably the highest it's been in 40 years. That information is provided through the California Gas Report and a historical look. So that's probably a better measure when you're comparing year over year than what the temperatures are. So we only have the granularity of the forecast we have today going forward. But as we operate the system and continue to operate, we use composite weighted average temperatures.
Thank you, Roger. I would also like to invite Ray Sasaki from the first panel to see, Ray, if you have a response to Tyson's earlier question about how much gas was in storage. I will read the question again. SoCal Gas still retained 36.9 BCF in storage on March 31st, 2023. How does additional gas storage help if SoCal Gas withholds the gas from customers?
Okay. Thanks for the question. It's an interesting question from the vantage point of that storage levels in the end of March of 2023 were from a core perspective, from a core inventory perspective, was one of the lowest that we've seen over the last 5 years. And I think at one point, the end of March projections were actually going to be the lowest in the last 5 years. So interesting on the perspective of withholding. The end of March number that doesn't really tell the story of how storage was used. If we can recall last winter, the November was one of the coldest Novembers for the West, and it really kicked off the season, and then followed by a cold December. And if you observe how storage was used and how that was drawn down, that was the lion's share of what the storage where the storage inventory was used and needed. Now, if the question was why wasn't it taken down even more or if it infers that, why wasn't it taken down even more, in that period? I think at the same time it can be there were legitimate concerns on how do you get through how much gas is remaining in the West in general, not necessarily from SoCal, but the West in general. And is there enough gas to get through the winter if it continues to be cold? So I think that it doesn't tell that story. And another aspect of that end of March number, just from what it doesn't tell, is how do you get full? How do you rebuild back? So I think it's a combination of a variety of factors. It's timing of when the cold was used, or how the cold came in, and how the storage was used. It's and at the same time, it's how do you refill, and so that those thoughts are made, and then even within, as we approached end of March, I mean, there were injections that were made prior to the end of March as well. So again, it just doesn't tell the right picture, and I think that like withheld might be a perspective that end of March doesn't really support.
Thank you for that additional response, Ray. The next question is from Gene Spencer. This is for Rock Point, Jason. The question is, with PG&E required to purchase ISP gas storage, core customers may not be captive customers, but they are dependent on robust competition amongst storage providers. Given that Wild Goose is such a large storage field and is owned by the same company as Lodi Kirby Hills, do you think there are enough diverse ISP suppliers to ensure robust competition?
Yeah, I would think that objectively, you look at other regions in the country, Northern California is one of the best supplied gas storage territories, if you will, that there is. we maintain separation between Lodi and Wild Goose. And then we also have Bill Ranch and Central Valley. So there are 4 different independent gas storage suppliers in Northern California. And I know that in the core gas supply, whether it's on sort of the pure gas side or on the electric side, I know that it is very competitive. And I know that it goes through a pretty vigorous third-party review of not only price, but insurance, financial capability, and a number of other factors. And then it is approved by the CPUC. So I think that there is lots of competition, and it is robust, and it is absolutely reviewed by the CPUC and PG&E, obviously, and their contractors pretty vigorously. So I would say that Northern California, in our experience, is probably one of the best supplied independent natural gas storage territories in the country.
Thank you for that response, Jason. The next question is from Eileen Hlafka. Related to Jean's question, can the utilities or storage providers speak to the advantages or disadvantages of having ISP providers, as in PG&E's territory, versus only having gas storage owned by the gas utility, as in SoCalGas's territory? So I'll open this up to any of the panelists that would like to address Eileen's question.
Yes, I could start with something that we're doing that we bring as an ISP, which is that because we own multiple gas storage assets, as well as bring experience from other underground storage operations. An example is that we are doing best practices meetings with the CVGS team and our teams here in Texas. While you don't think of Texas as getting cold weather, we do have winter issues. And so one of the benefits of having the ISPs, and specifically ISPs like us and Rockpoint that have gas storage elsewhere, is that we do bring these best practices to our facilities.
Maybe if I could just add to that, we during Winter Storm Uri, we had a facility in Oklahoma, and one of the things that we ended up doing when nobody else in the state was really doing this was we had facilities in Alberta that are very used to dealing with cold weather and adverse conditions. So we put 4 senior folks on a plane and flew them down to Oklahoma and made sure that that plant kept running all through the storm and never had to cut anybody. And we ended up serving all of our customers and being helpful to the state in providing service where sort of unfortunately the local folks didn't have that experience. So to Dave's point, we do have that experience that is reaching further than California, and we're able to use that to make sure that we keep our facilities running and using best practices.
Stina, this is Pete Kasalka from PG&E. I'd like to answer that question also. So the difference between utility and independent storage. Utilities charge rates that are cost-based, and those go through significant review by the commission. The independent storage providers provide market-based rates that are largely dependent on market conditions. So at times when we see extreme volatility in the market as we are today, we can see very high prices from the independent storage providers. And that definitely can have an impact on our bundled core customers.
Thank you, Pete. Roger, would you also like to answer that question from SoCalGas's perspective?
Sure. I'll jump in here. First, I'd like to address, even though we only have storage fields in California, we do work through organizations like AGA and their Underground Storage Committee to share best practices and what we're doing. I think some of our inspection practices are actually ahead of the industry and farther beyond than federal regulations. With regard to having multiple entities holding storage in Southern California, our service territory, up until September 1st of this year, for the last 7 years, all our storage was allocated to the core customers. And as was mentioned by Pete, it's allocated at cost. So from that standpoint, up till recently, we basically had all our storage capacity was allocated to the core customers for their use. And I'll stop there.
I'd like to add something as well from a just from a cost perspective. The ISPs are here for a reason, and the ISP costs, if you added up all of the investment across the ISPs, I would expect the number would be about $2 to $2.5 billion of investment in underground storage in Northern California. And all of that was done on the risk of market-based rates. So rather than having that kind of $2 to $2.5 billion of cost in the cost base and the consumers paying for that, that was all done on a risk base. And I think I would expect that if you looked over the history of the amount of investment since the 1999 when Wild Goose was first put in, I think you would see that the ratepayers have come out ahead from having market-based rates on that additional storage versus cost-based rates.
Thank you all for answering that question. The next question is from Rob Nikolewski. This question is for Roger. What message would you like to share with SDG&E customers for this winter who may be worried about a repeat of the price shocks they saw on their bills last winter?
Rob, thanks for the question. From the operations side, and this maybe should have been addressed more to the communication panel, but from the operations side, operationally, we're better situated today than we were last year. Weather forecast with El Nino and lower temperatures looks to be better than it was last year. So everything points in a positive direction, but we all know weather can change tomorrow. So operationally, we're better off today than we were last year.
Thank you, Roger. And yes, since the question was directed for about SDG&E customers, I would also like to give Donna an opportunity to respond. Okay, I actually don't see Donna. So we will move on. There is, I think, one additional question here. Let me scroll up. It is another question from Tyson. I'm not sure who this is directed towards, but it is more so about communication. Electrification will decrease gas demand and decrease gas prices. California's energy policy is to decarbonize. What have the gas IOUs done in their communications with customers to educate about electrification and the IRA dollars available for electrification? So if there's anyone from the first panel that would like to address this question.
Yeah, I can answer that for PG&E. We do communicate with customers about electrification. We've created a guide to help them understand what it is and how to go about electrifying their home. We promoted it in our digital newsletter that we send to customers. We talk about it in our energy action guide, which also calls out the IRA funding. So there's a number of avenues that we're using to educate customers and promote the benefits of electrification. And those activities will only grow as we go more into decarbonizing the system.
Thank you for the response, Christy. All right, so that concludes the Q&A for panel 2 and in part for panel 1. Appreciate all of our panelists for participating today. We will now move on to the general comment portion. Olivia, if you would like to advance. Thank you. So again, please use the information here to raise your hand. I've seen several comments come in, but I would like to ask you, if you do have a comment, please raise your hand and I will unmute you so that you can verbally make your comment. And panelists are welcome to make comments, Commissioner Douglas and staff attendees. While we're waiting, I will read one comment that came in from Rebecca. Consumers have the option right now to shop for a fixed rate gas supply option through a core transport, which eliminates the volatility they will be subject to in utility rate making. This shifts the risk of volatility back onto the core transport agent and not the public at large. Most consumers don't know that they have that choice, and the current California customer education website to compare pricing in terms is not user-friendly. Is there interest to pursue development of a customer natural gas pricing and comparison website that resembles the CPUC website has for electric ratepayers to compare CCAs and IOU options, such as what Pennsylvania and Maryland have developed? And she includes an example with a link. Any other comments? Folks, feel free to raise your hand and I will unmute you. Since Rebecca's comment included a question, I'll ask Jean Spencer, the Gas Policy and Reliability Supervisor, to see if she has a response that she'd like to add.
Sure. I just wanted to add that, at this time, we don't have funding to create a more advanced website. And I also want to note that the information that we post to the website is based on the information that we get from the CTAs, or core transport agents, who tend to have quite complex rates. So it is definitely something we've talked internally about, how to simplify so that customers can compare, while at the same time understanding, for example, if a core transport agent has, for example, an introductory rate that will rise 2 months later, or if there's a fee for quitting the service. So there's a lot of complexity in the rates themselves, and it's challenging to create a simple website, but it's definitely something that we are looking into with the resources that we have.
Thank you for responding, Jean. All right, I will invite folks one more time to raise your hands if you have comments. Otherwise, we will move on to closing remarks. I see Eileen Holofka has her hand raised. Eileen, you are muted. You are unmuted.
I'm Eileen Plavka. I also work at the with Christina at the Public Utilities Commission. I have a question relating kind of more to the first panel. If we have time, maybe it could be answered. If not, I'll just put it out there. San Diego spoke to distributing warming items in partnership with the local food bank, and I was wondering how that particular program came about and if they and the other utilities could summarize any programs that they have to support customers during staying warm during extreme weather events. And I do mean on the gas side, not for electric utilities.
Thank you for that question, Eileen. I know that I don't see Donna here with us, so I don't believe she can speak to SDG&E's efforts, but I invite others from panel one, Christy or Jennifer, if you'd like to respond to Eileen.
Yeah, hi, Eileen. We do work with food banks through our CBOs. We have support programs and resources, and we're doing some pilots to extend outreach that we do with them, like events, having reps on hand to meet with customers. We did one recently in Stockton, where we had reps at the food bank, and customers were able to go meet with the reps, find out what programs they were eligible for, sign up with those programs. In terms of distributing any warming items, I don't think we've done anything like that. I would have to double check though and confirm.
Thank you, Christy. Jennifer would like to respond, but she is on the phone for.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I'm not aware of any specifically to the warming items, but we do work with our local CBOs and a lot of different agencies and city municipalities in order to provide items and help out, in volunteer events and things like that. But I'm not specifically knowledgeable to warming items, but we'll take it back and see what we can do. We'll work with San Diego and learn more about their program. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer and Christy. So that concludes our general comment period. We will now move on to closing remarks. Olivia, thank you. I just have a couple of things to mention, but before I do, I would like to turn it over to Commissioner Douglas to see if she would like to say anything.
Thank you, Christina. I just wanted to briefly thank all of the participants in this workshop today, and ALJ Stevens and of course the Energy Division staff who pulled this together. A lot of good information has kind of come out today just in terms of preparations for this coming winter, and in terms of where the different utilities are with regard to customer communications. So we'll hope to continue to work as we continue this proceeding and looking into what happened last year. We really want to work to raise the bar in terms of effective communication to customers and broadly situational awareness about where we are and how things are looking as the winter progresses. So thanks again to everybody, and back to you, Christina.
Thank you, Commissioner Douglas. And again, thank you to all of our panelists for the wonderful presentations today. I would just like to mention a couple of things before adjourning. I will be sharing the presentations with all of the attendees today. We will also provide a workshop report summarizing all of the discussions That will be issued and shared with the service list in approximately 40 days. And parties will have an opportunity to provide comments on the workshop report, including correcting inaccurate statements or identifying informational gaps from the workshop or the workshop report. We do plan on holding a second workshop in this proceeding in Q1 of next year. And the following topics may be included in that workshop. Jurisdictional landscape of the natural gas industry, as well as discussing long-term solutions to mitigate price spikes in gas and electric bill impacts. With that, I would like to conclude our workshop and thank everyone for attending and participating today.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.